Washington sports fans, I would feel bad for you if the Capitals didn't win the Stanley Cup last year, but being a fan of their other three teams would be extremely hard. The Nationals were a contender for so many years, and got close, but just couldn't rise above. The Redskins are always facing injuries, and even when they do have a good year and make the playoffs, no one remembers because they lose instantly. And then we have the Wizards. Yes, the Wizards. Where do we even begin with this team? I could start with John Wall's contract and end the video right away, but it all starts back in June of 2003. Once upon a time in Washington, D.C., there was a man named Ernie Grunfeld. This man is single-handedly responsible for everything the Wizards are today. Michael Jordan was coming off his retirement for the final time, and the Wizards were coming off a 37-45 season. Ernie Grunfeld was hired as the team's new general manager in the summer of 2003. New head coach Eddie Jordan was also hired in June of 2003. The Wizards had only made the playoffs once since 1988, and that was in 1997 when they were swept by the Bulls. Guys like Jerry Stackhouse, Larry Hughes, Ty Lue, and Kwame Brown led the team, and they had a good but not a great team. The first thing Grunfeld did was sign Warriors guard Gilbert Arenas to a 6-year, $60 million contract, which almost didn't happen because he supposedly flipped a coin on it, and the Warriors couldn't match the offer. The Wizards' first season under Grunfeld in 2004 was disappointing because they went 25-57. Grunfeld traded for Antoine Jamison. This shakeup worked because the next year the team went on to win 20 more games. And during the 2005 season, the Wizards actually had their best regular season in 26 years and went 45-37. They beat the Bulls in the first round, but were swept by the Heat in the conference semifinals. The next three seasons from 2005 through 2008, the Wizards lost to the Cavs in the first round of the playoffs each year. And in that time, Grunfeld traded for Caron Butler, who signed a 5-year, $46 million deal in 2005. And the Wizards had a good trio of Gilbert Arenas, Caron Butler, and Antoine Jamison. And after 2008, the Wizards had a downfall. Grunfeld re-signed Antoine Jamison for 4 years and $50 million. And then he gave Gilbert Arenas 6 years worth $111 million, which might have been one of the worst contracts in NBA history. The Wizards went 19-63 in 2009 and had just a horrible season. And Gilbert Arenas played 2 games that season. And his contract was, well, it was bad. During the 2009 season, Grunfeld traded the 5th overall pick for Mike Miller and Randy Foye, and they only played 1 season for the Wizards, and that pick could have been used on Steph Curry, who was taken 7th overall. For 2010, Flip Saunders was hired as head coach, but he couldn't improve the broken Wizards. Gilbert Arenas was suspended by the NBA for the rest of the season in January for having guns in his locker room at the Verizon Center. They traded Caron Butler to the Mavericks, traded Antoine Jamison to the Cavs, and the team went 26-56 and had just fallen apart. Grunfeld still survived the mess, however, and the 2011 season was a fresh start for the team. They got a new owner in Ted Leonsis, who owns the Washington Capitals since 1999 and became the Wizards' majority owner in June of 2010. The good news was the team was able to select John Wall first in the draft despite having the 5th best odds in the lottery in the 2010 draft, and he would become their franchise star going forward. John Wall was electric at Kentucky, and he was a valuable point guard any team would be lucky to have. But not much happened in the 2011 season, and the Wizards went 23-59, and they traded Gilbert Arenas to the Magic. In the 2011 NBA draft, the Wizards passed on guys like Kemba Walker, Kawhi Leonard, Klay Thompson to take Jan Vesely, 6th overall.
Who?
And he only played for the Wizards for 3 seasons, starting 25 games and never averaging 5 points or more a season. I mean, just imagine if Kawhi was on the Wizards. We could have a totally different situation in Washington. And if he played to the capability he is right now, they could have won a title. Even Jay Bilas said there was speculation they were going to take Kawhi.
A lot of speculation they might pick up Kawhi Leonard here from San Diego State.
But nope, they took Jan Vesely. And the late great Flip Saunders watched Klay Thompson practice and was convinced he would be a star and urged Grunfeld to take him. But no, he took Jan Vesely. But Grunfeld had another selection in the draft with the 18th pick, and Grunfeld passed on Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler to take Chris Singleton. Singleton played 3 seasons in the NBA for Washington, and he did about exactly what Vesely did for the Wizards and never panned out. In the 2012 season, the Wizards changed their style and got a new logo and brought in new uniforms, but the team went 20-46 in a shortened season. Randy Whitman replaced Flip Saunders as head coach during the season, and the Wizards had another disappointing year. In the 2012 NBA draft, the Wizards selected Bradley Beal 3rd overall, and John Wall finally had a running mate to help him in the backcourt. But with the 32nd pick with Draymond Green and Chris Middleton on the board, the Wizards took another shooting guard in the draft named Tomas Satoransky. He played overseas until joining the Wizards in 2016, and he hasn't been that bad, but he signed with the Bulls this year. In the 2013 season, the Wizards once again had a bad year by going 29-53. During the 2013 NBA draft, the team took Otto Porter Jr. 3rd overall, who played at Georgetown, which was probably a smooth transition for him. The 2014 season, the Wizards finally had a turning point for the team. In February of 2014, they finally had a winning record since 2009, and they clinched their first playoff spot since 2008. They beat the Bulls in the first round in 5 games, but lost to the Pacers in 6 games in the next round. For 2015, the team lost Trevor Ariza, but they gained Paul Pierce. The Wizards won 46 games and went on to sweep the Raptors in the first round, but lost to the Hawks in 6 games in the second round. In 2016, the Wizards missed the playoffs, and Randy Whitman was fired, and the team hired Scott Brooks after the season. For the 2017 season, the Wizards got back into the playoffs and beat the Hawks in round 1 in 6 games, but lost to the Celtics in the second round in 7 games. In July of 2017, Grunfeld signed John Wall to a 4-year, $170 million extension. And this turned out to be a horrible idea, because John Wall would only play in half of the games in 2018, and I will get to what happened in 2019 here in a second. He also matched the Nets offer sheet on Otto Porter Jr. for 4 years, $106.5 million. And a year before, Bradley Beal signed a 5-year, $128 million max, which is the only contract Grunfeld did good on. So now the Wizards had a big 3 with 3 ridiculous contracts that made it hard for them to do anything if things didn't work out. And of course, they didn't. In the 2018 season, the Wizards were the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs and lost to the Raptors in 6 games. And finally, the 2019 season, the Wizards missed the playoffs and only had 32 wins. The team traded Otto Porter Jr. to the Bulls for Bobby Portis, Jabari Parker, and a 2023 second-round pick. And the only thing that remains is that draft pick. John Wall was ruled out for the season in December due to a heel injury and underwent surgery in January. But then he developed an infection from the surgery and slipped in his home, which caused his left Achilles tendon to rupture, and now he's going to be out for 12 months. So just like when Gilbert Arenas was signed long-term, John Wall is the next star franchise guard to get signed to a crazy contract, and it backfired immediately. His contract starts this year, and for the next 4 years they are stuck with him, and his contract would be a miracle to move because of the trade kicker and the amount of money he's making. So with all of that, Ted Leonsis decided he had seen enough, and Ernie Grunfeld was finally fired April 2nd of 2019. The Wizards under Grunfeld have missed the playoffs as often as they have made it. They never made a conference finals, they never won 50 games, and they were always a team that just never got over the hump. Now the NBA is challenging when it comes to having a competitive team, and you either have to have a great star to build around or a city that attracts stars. And despite Washington being an appealing city and having stars like John Wall and Bradley Beal, the Wizards never drafted well and never got free agent stars. They tried to get Kevin Durant and Al Horford in the 2016 offseason, whiffed on both of them, and Grunfeld decided to give Ian Mahinmi a 4-year, $64 million deal. And guess how many games this man has started for the Wizards? 6. Bradley Beal is going to have to lead this team moving forward, and the Wizards are desperately trying to extend their franchise centerpiece, but he is obviously going to wait on signing that extension to get a max. Beal is the best shooting guard in the East and is one of the NBA's best. So it's important for Washington to keep him and build around him because he's only 26 and you need stars in the NBA. But honestly, this video really does come down to the John Wall contract because this team can't rebuild completely until that thing is off the books in 2023. Now the Wizards are being run under the guidance of new general manager Tommy Shepard, who is Grunfeld's right-hand man. Shepard has a different plan though, and is already starting to rebuild to get young players playing and clearing guys out to help clean up the cap. He signed Thomas Bryant to a cheap and good contract. He traded for Mo Wagner, who was great at Michigan in college, and the Wizards wanted to draft him back in 2018, so this could be a good move. And then in the draft, Shepard took Admiral Schofield, who is about as passionate of a basketball player as you'll find. And then he took Rory Hachimura from Gonzaga, who has a lot of international media following him, and is a young, talented player with a lot of potential that I would love to see him do great things. So honestly, Ted Leonsis is doing the right thing by giving Tommy Shepard a chance, and at least trying to develop young guys instead of giving old vets a chance to win meaningless games. Obviously, the Wizards are not going to be a great team moving forward, but all the moves they have made so far are good for their situation. And Shepard is trying to get guys who will play hard and not sign bad contracts. So NBA or Wizards fans, what do you guys think about the future of the Wizards? So hopefully John Wall gets back to his normal self and can help this team or can get his contract moved. I wish the Wizards well. They don't have a lot going for them right now and are an NBA team I don't get how anybody could hate. They have one of the best owners in sports and he will be patient. Maybe a little too patient if you know what I mean. But he's going to make sure this team gets better because he really does love his sports teams, and even when the Capitals went through trouble, he was patient and things worked out. The Wizards are taking the Clippers approach right now and building a team of young guys who will play basketball hard. It is going to take some time, but I like the changes the team is making so far. They are creating a more collaborative front office with a bunch of minds working together, rather than having everything decided by one person. Teams like the Raptors, 76ers, and the Clippers have all taken this approach, and it is really working out for them, and the Wizards are trying their shot. They just hired Johnny Rogers as vice president of pro personnel, and he was with the Clippers the past 3 seasons, and he was an Oklahoma City Thunder scout before that. They hired former Georgetown coach and DC legend John Thompson III as vice president of player development, and hired former Browns executive Sashi Brown to be in charge of technology, finance, and research. Thompson might not have won as much as people wanted him to at Georgetown, but this guy recruited well at an academic school, so I really think he will be valuable for the organization, and will focus on just making sure things are running smooth and will be a great mind. Sashi Brown won't be in charge of the roster or the salary cap, and he is there for sharing ideas and will be another helpful mind in the brain trust. Despite what you might think of all these people, they are making a smart change and a change the Wizards haven't seen in a long time. So just keep that in mind, and hopefully things work out better in the future. The thing the Clippers did well was they paid a high price for the best minds. And if these guys don't work out, the Wizards need to pay up and find the right people in the front office. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.